Have you ever watched someone leave your life, yet somehow never leave your mind? Days pass, then weeks, then months, sometimes even years, and while the world keeps moving, a part of you stays behind, waiting, hoping, remembering, believing that maybe one day, things will go back to the way they were. If you've ever struggled to move on from someone, this story is for you, because sometimes the hardest thing to let go of isn't a person. It's the future you imagined. Together, Ethan never expected one conversation to change the course of his life. 3 years earlier, he had met a woman named Claire. She wasn't perfect, neither was he, but together, they felt right. They talked for hours, shared dreams, made plans, laughed about things nobody else understood. Slowly, without realizing it, Ethan began building a future in his mind: weekend trips, a home together, marriage, children, growing old side by side. The relationship lasted 2 years, then one rainy evening, it ended. No screaming, no betrayal, no dramatic fight, just a quiet conversation. Claire looked at him and said, "I don't think we're right for each other anymore." Ethan felt his chest tighten. "What happened?" he asked. Claire looked away. Nothing happened, and somehow, those words hurt even more, because there was no enemy to blame, no mistake to fix, no obvious reason to fight for, only an ending, and endings are hardest to accept when you don't understand them. The first few weeks were painful. Everyone expected that. His friends told him, "You'll be okay." His family said, "Give it time," and Ethan believed them, at first. But time passed, and nothing changed. Every morning, he checked her social media. Every evening, he wondered who she was with. Every night, he replayed old conversations. Inside his head, maybe if I had said this, maybe if I had done that, maybe things would be different. Weeks became months, months became a year, then another. His friends got married, started businesses, moved cities, built lives. Ethan stayed exactly where he was, not physically, emotionally. His life became a museum of memories, old photos, old messages, old hopes, old versions of a future that no longer existed. One evening, he sat alone scrolling through Claire's profile. She was smiling in a photo, standing beside people he didn't recognize. A caption underneath read, "Grateful for where life has taken me." Ethan stared at the screen, his stomach twisted. How could she be happy? How could she move on so easily? How could she continue living, while he still felt trapped? The truth was, she wasn't living in the past, he was, and the past always wins, when you refuse to leave it. Another year passed. One afternoon, Ethan was walking through town, when he saw her, Claire, standing outside a cafe. For a moment, his heart raced exactly the way it used to. Then he noticed something strange. She looked different, not worse, not better, different. Her hairstyle had changed, her voice sounded different, even the way she laughed felt unfamiliar. They exchanged a few polite words. Then something unexpected happened. Ethan realized he didn't actually know her anymore. The woman standing in front of him was not the woman he had been grieving. That version existed only in memory. The real Claire had continued growing, changing, living, while Ethan remained attached to a photograph frozen in time. He walked home in silence, and for the first time, a difficult question entered his mind. What if I am not holding on to Claire? What if I'm holding on to an idea? That night, he couldn't sleep. He sat in darkness, thinking about the last 3 years, the birthdays he barely enjoyed, the opportunities he ignored, the friendships he neglected, the experiences he missed. All because he was waiting for a chapter that had already ended. Then another realization arrived. Even if Claire came back tomorrow, she could never give him the future he lost, because that future never existed. It was only a story he had written in his mind, And suddenly, everything became clear. He wasn't mourning a person, he was mourning a possibility, a dream, an imagined future, something that had never actually happened, and for years, he had sacrificed his real life for an imaginary one. The next morning, Ethan opened his phone. He looked at Claire's profile one last time, not with anger, not with bitterness. Just acceptance. Then he closed it. He didn't block her, he didn't make a dramatic speech, he simply stopped visiting, because healing isn't always loud. Sometimes healing looks like choosing not to look back. One more time. The first day felt strange. The second day felt harder, the third day felt worse, but then something happened. The urge slowly weakened, the memories became quieter, the obsession lost its grip, not all at once, little by little, day by day, choice by choice. Months later, Ethan noticed something surprising. He laughed more, he slept better, he paid attention again. The world had not changed, but he had. One evening, while watching the sunset, he smiled. Not because he had forgotten Claire, but because he had finally stopped living inside a story that was already over. And maybe that's the lesson. Sometimes the hardest thing to let go of is not the person, it's the future you imagined with them. The life you thought you would have, the story you thought would happen, but your life cannot move forward while your heart keeps living in a chapter that has already ended, because moving on isn't about forgetting, it's about accepting what happened, accepting what didn't happen, and accepting that your future still belongs to you. So if there's someone you're struggling to let go of, ask yourself this: am I holding on to a person, or am I holding on to a dream? Because the answer to that question might be the first step toward freedom. And remember, moving on is not one big decision, it's 1,000 small decisions. To stop looking backward. If this story resonated with you, share it with someone who may still be trapped in yesterday, because sometimes, the bravest thing a person can do is let go of the life they imagined, so they can finally live the life that is waiting for them.